refueling.
I'm sorry.
Your call is important to us. Please hold.
Hello? Hello?
Swiftcover.com. Car insurance without call centres.
Imola is a circuit where the achievements and tragedy of Ayrton Senna generate both pride and great sadness. It was at Imola in 1994 where Ayrton Senna claimed his 65th pole position just 24 hours before he died. His memory remains as inspiring as ever, but the great man's last record has gone. Because yesterday it was pole position number 66 for Michael Schumacher, who put Ferrari back at the front for the San Marino Grand Prix. And Jenson Button continues to show the kind of determination of which Senna would approve. He's back on the front row after all the frustrations of Australia. And at last he's got support from his teammate. A return to form for Rubens Barrichello has helped put Fernando Alonso back on row 3. So maybe the shape of the season is about to change, as many thought it would when the World Championship arrived in Europe. Round 4 will be played out in front of a passionate crowd who demand so much of Ferrari. They've made progress, but so too have others. Stand by for a San Marino Grand Prix that's set to be thrilling and revealing.
Aspetto qui, aspetto il temporale, aspetto che questo caldo arrivi alla fine, non riesco a dormire. Aspetto qui, aspetto il temporale, aspetto che questo caldo arrivi alla fine e mi faccia dormire.
And in the 3 weeks since Melbourne, Honda have been working as hard as anybody to try to cure the tyre problem that cost them so much at the Australian Grand Prix. So now Jenson Button has given himself at least another opportunity of making that victory breakthrough that the whole of British motorsport wants so badly for him. We'll be hearing from Jenson during the course of our race build-up, and this morning he remained as positive as ever.
It's our best qualifying as a team, second and third. It's the first time I've ever had a teammate in the press conference with me, so it's a good experience. So to be second and third on the grid here in Imola is great, because it's so difficult to overtake around here. We just got to hope that our strategy is correct.
So the 2006 Formula One World Championship arrives in Europe, and welcome to our live coverage of this San Marino Grand Prix. Imola once again bathed in warm spring sunshine, just as it was for yesterday's highly competitive qualifying session. James Allen and Martin Brundle look back on how today's grid was formed.
Well, Ferrari left Australia promising they were going to work really hard on the car to get themselves competitive, get themselves in the championship hunt, and it certainly worked. They've got a new engine, a new floor, new front wing, new barge boards and rear suspension, and Michael Schumacher looks razor sharp here, doesn't he?
He does, he's very fast. Of course, all of the teams have moved forward. They've had a 3-week break since the first 3 long-haul races where they were really pretty much stuck with their winter development. Now they've brought a lot of new pieces, and the relentless pace of Formula One in terms of development just keeps moving forward. But Ferrari do seem to have gained the most. We have to remember, of course, though, that their Bridgestone tyres seem particularly effective around here. I think the Ferrari could be a little bit lighter on the grid than some of the other normal front runners like McLaren and Renault, for example. But Michael's got a very fast car underneath him.
Another car that's probably a little bit light is the Honda. They accepted that they're not as quick on the Michelin tyre as the Renault. If they start behind them, how are they ever going to beat them? Start in front of them and see what happens. So Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello, second and third on the grid, and they're not looking too bad either, are they?
Yeah, they're looking good. I mean, they seem to outperform the car in qualifying. I wonder if they've got a lot of revs they just add in for that one lap that gives them that extra boost of performance. And they tend to flatter to deceive a little bit for race pace. And I think that could be very key today with regard to whether Michael Schumacher can get away at the front. But the Honda continually looks to be on the pace, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, of course, one big surprise was Giancarlo Fisichella not making it into the top 10 shootout. Very embarrassing for him, a winner this season already, a pole sitter as well. I mean, how on earth does that happen? Answer, he's on the wrong end of 7 cars within a tenth of a second.
but he is P11 on the grid. That's dream ticket. He can use whatever strategy he wants now. He's just got to stay out of trouble down to the first corner.
So a magnificent 66th career pole position for Michael Schumacher. One clear of Ayrton Senna. Jenson Button again alongside him. Rubens Barrichello, a welcome return to form for him. Massa a second slower than Schumacher. What can Alonso do from the third row? Ditto Ralf Schumacher. The two McLarens on row 4, Raikkonen made a mistake. Row 5, Trulli and Mark Webber. Row 6, the big surprise, Fisichella outside the top 10 and Jacques Villeneuve. Row 7, Nico Rosberg finding it tough with David Coulthard struggling for pace as well. Heidfeld and Liuzzi make up row 8. Row 9, Christian Klien struggling with the Red Bull and Scott Speed, F1's bad boy. The Midlands didn't make the most of the Bridgestone tyres, the result being the Super Guris are nibbling at their heels.
Congratulations, Michael, a new all-time record for pole positions. I suspect, though, that even without that record, this would have been a pretty sweet pole.
Absolutely. A record, yeah, is nice, but not important. But to be here after the last two races, do well in the way we did well, and have a good confidence as well for the race tomorrow. That's what counts.
We think we've made an improvement. You know, we've got a new aero package which will help the consistency. Also, we have some setup work that we've done, which will help. We still don't know if it's enough to challenge the Ferraris or the Renaults. We have to see, but you know, it's good for us both to be up here, up in the top 3, Rubens and myself, and hopefully we can have a great race tomorrow.
We got to keep our feet on the ground because Jenson has been on the pole already, and the pace of the race wasn't very good. We know we made the car a lot better for the pace, but we just keeping feet on the ground, have the best start possible, and then go for it.
And the driver's standings after 3 rounds shows how important it is for those with ambitions to catch Fernando Alonso to get a strong result here at Imola this afternoon. Alonso already with a 14-point lead in the Drivers' Championship over his Renault teammate Giancarlo Fisichella and McLaren's Kimi Raikkonen. But as you saw, the world champion back on row 3 today. But Mark Blundell, this is just the kind of position that Fernando Alonso seems to be most threatening from.
He's been threatening all year and got the job done at every Grand Prix so far this season in terms of pulling off wins. So we're not very perturbed about him being in 5th position. I think Renault have got something up their sleeve. They don't seem to be concerned about running a little bit of a fuel load and going through maybe with a couple of stops. The big problem will be, will they be there at the end with Ferrari and maybe 3 stops for this race?
Do you expect it to be similar kind of tactics from McLaren, who occupy row 4? Do you feel they've got the car fueled up, ready to run long?
Historically, McLaren always run with a heavy fuel load and will normally always go into that first stop a lot later than anybody else. But I'm not too sure whether they've done the right move today. I think they may get caught on the hop, and I'd like to see whether Ferrari can run that big pace with that car as it is at the moment.
Now, we know not to read a great deal into qualifying positions, but there's Jenson Button on the front row for the 3rd race in succession, and it is so important to get out front here at Imola.
Oh, definitely. It's a tough place to overtake, Steve. It's not easy for any of the drivers to make a move without being very, very sure that it's going to come off at the end of it. And Jenson's got the opportunity yet again on the front row. If he can get into that chicane just in front of Schumacher, he can dictate the race, and maybe we've got a chance to see him pull it off.
It was a combination of temperature and the safety car that upset his race rhythm and upset his tyres in Australia. We've got temperatures around about 22, 23 on a gorgeous afternoon. What about the conditions here?
Well, I still don't know whether there's going to be an issue for the guys. If a safety car comes out, whether Jenson's going to suffer, and Rubens Barrichello with the Hondas, with this cold tyre grain problem. They've been struggling to get heat into the tyres under safety car conditions, getting the depth there. That means they don't get no grip, they don't get no confidence. Will they suffer, or have they fixed it?
And how impressed were you by Michael Schumacher yesterday?
Unbelievable. I mean, just to see the guy come back again and pull a lap together like that, it's just Michael Schumacher at his best. We've seen it time and time again, and to break a record of Ayrton Senna's as well, what a big thing for him.
Well, Michael Schumacher, a man inspired yesterday, as he seems to be so often here on his home circuit of Imola. This was how he took pole position for today's race. This is how he broke Ayrton Senna's pole position record, although for Michael it did take rather more Grand Prix to reach that total of 66 than it took the great Ayrton Senna. But this is how he put the Ferrari on the front of the grid today.
The San Marino Grand Prix in Imola, a track on the outskirts of a town. It's 3 miles long, 16 turns in total. Let's take a look at the lap with pole sitter Michael Schumacher. 185 miles an hour heading towards the Tamburello chicane. Throws the car in about 110. 95 miles an hour is the minimum speed. Easily full throttle on the exit. And the Ferrari has very good balance so far. Now the Villeneuve chicane. 120 on the way through. Still doing 100 miles an hour. And this tiny right-hand corner leans on the curb and throws it towards Tosa. Oh, perfect. The nose is exactly where he wants it to be. Early on the throttle up the hill then, sweeping over the blind crest, and Piratella will be waiting for him. Listen to this. Down 3 gears, slams the throttle to the floor and down the hill, easily gaining speed. First part of Acqua Minerale, scary. Flicks it in to the bottom of the hill. A lot of understeer, but he got away with it. Taking the line of least resistance up to the Variante Alta. New tarmac surface here and an elongated chicane. Getting very greedy on the curbs, but it's paying him back handsomely as he takes great exit speed towards the first Rivazza. 190 miles an hour. Just did a tweak on the brake balance. He knows how hard it is to slow down here. It's downhill, 100 on the way in. Just held on to the back of the car, and then Rivazza 2 immediately ahead of him. That worked better. A right flick then, 185 miles an hour, one more time before the final chicane. He gets greedy on the left curb, but I notice he misses the right one, unlike all of the other drivers, and it pays off handsomely. Another pole position.
Yes, Michael Schumacher, brilliant yesterday and the centre of some attention here today. Still some 20 minutes before we think about heading out onto the grid, so the paddock is still a place of some activity, and being Imola, it's a place of some style as well. And this being the first European short-haul Grand Prix of the season, it's an opportunity for the teams to show off the investment that they've made in new motorhomes, new technology centres, new hospitality units, and it does seem sometimes that there's a greater sense of competition around the paddock than there is compared to anything that goes on out in the track. From McLaren, we've got style and sophistication. There's a certain subdued style about Ferrari alongside as well. But the most grandiose structures, well, they're at the far end of the grid. From Scuderia Toro Rosso and from Red Bull, those giant technology centres that fit above the trucks. And then just across the paddock is the Red Bull Energy Centre that takes care of lubrication of a slightly different kind. And as Louise Goodman has to remind us, these are all temporary structures.
24 trucks rolled into the paddock at the beginning of this week to find 40 riggers, some more familiar than others, waiting to transform 400 tonnes of glass and steel into the new Red Bull Energy Station. It's certainly the biggest and probably one of the best new hospitality facilities in Formula One this year.
So, just over 2 days to get this thing built, and wow, what an intense energy station. 30 meters long and over 15 meters deep, provides everything we need during the race weekends. Inside, we have the areas where both teams can eat. So the Red Bull Racing team, the Toro Rosso team, all of us can have a nice lunch and dinner while we're at the racetrack. The main kitchen area is behind us, as well as a nice bar that really acts like a lounge for everyone, the teams and the guests of Red Bull and everyone else in the paddock. So, let's check out a little bit more details here. Back here we have our personal driving areas, and these act as kind of our little sanctuary during the race weekend, so we don't get bothered by anyone. We have a place where we can relax. This isn't for everyone. We like to keep just for drivers. Need a little passcode to get in there. It makes me feel a little James Bondish walking in here. Got my personal driver's room where I kind of relax and lounge during the race weekends. Helps everything go by more smooth. Got internet access, PlayStation, little TV, some entertainment, place to hang my hat, if you will, during the race weekends. So, not a bad area for the driver. After the races, you don't have to be all sloppy. We can take a shower. And I gotta tell you, this thing's better than the one in my house. So, an awesome shower area, great bathroom, really everything you need during the race weekends. So now we'll go upstairs and check out where you'll most likely find the Formula Una girls. Upstairs, we have a couple different bars here and really kind of the hangout area for all the guests of Red Bull. It's really quiet, really comfortable chairs, great place to lounge. So like I said, we got the 2 bars here, and out back here we got really a lounge area. It's where my girlfriend spends most of her time, actually. Got nice couches in the sun, can relax and enjoy a great view here at Imola. And the last but not least, we have the upstairs where, you know, if you're gonna party, whenever we're gonna have a Red Bull event, most of the time it takes place up there. Normally it's pretty quiet, great place to come out and chill, relax, got a couple of couches, and you get to see over the whole paddock. Great place to be on the race weekends. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tour. This is my home energy station. Maybe I see you one day here.
They might throw the biggest parties in the energy station, but Red Bull and Toro Rosso are not the only teams to have a luxurious new hospitality facility this year. That's Williams' new suite, where they serve afternoon tea every day. Over here is Honda's two-tier construction. It's a lounge and cafe area upstairs, full waitress service downstairs. And down at the bottom is BMW's hospitality facility, or as they like to call it, Schloss BMW. And I reckon they didn't get much change from $1 million by the time they finished building that.
What a pampered lot they are. Mark Blundell, what sort of energy station were you provided with in your racing days?
We didn't get anything like that. I mean, that's unbelievable. But the guys need to be relaxed. They've got a lot going on over the course of a Grand Prix weekend. And, if they can muck around in there and just do what they need to do, great stuff.
And the appropriately named Scott Speed has got a bit of energy as well, hasn't he?
Oh, well, if he can transfer that onto the circuit, we're in for an exciting race.
Well, millions are being spent in that direction, but in Formula One, you've got to get your priorities right. And here at Ferrari, well, racing comes first, but the new liveried Ferrari, well, that carries an echo of motorsport sponsorship of the past, with that famous evocative Martini logo proudly carried on the nose of the car, reminding us of great motorsport achievements of past years. And that's been a cause for celebration this past week as well. It was Brabham that carried the Martini stripes in the 70s, a team run by a certain Bernie Ecclestone, and a car driven by the likes of John Watson and also Carlos Reutemann and Niki Lauda. The stripes carried proudly to World Rally Championship success by Mickey Biasion and Marco Allen, both of whom were here at Imola this week to celebrate the glory days and the new involvement with Ferrari. And the man who runs Formula One was also reminded of how he used to run the Martini Brabhams. And he used to run it with Herbie Blash and an outstanding designer as well, Gordon Murray. And that was a couple of days ago, and Gordon Murray is with us now. Looking back to those Brabham years and those years with Bernie Ecclestone, how much fun was the sport then?
Well, those were great years. I think of all my time in Formula One, that period in the 70s was the most fun. When we had the old Brabham Martinis, it was really fantastic.
How much of a distant spectator are you now? You're still involved to a certain degree.
I'm not involved at all, no. I mean, I come to very few races now. The problem is, when I come to a race, I feel like I should be working. I start wanting to call the cars in for the tyre changes and things. But I do watch it from a distance, and I'm still very interested in the technology and the rules, and of course the racing.
What impresses you most about modern Formula One technology?
I think it's perhaps the aerodynamics, because I tended to sort of lean towards the aerodynamics, I suppose, in the early days. And nowadays, I mean, you have so many people striving for tiny little improvements on the aerodynamic side of the car.
Are you hungry to be back when you see technology and facilities like that?
Well, I like winning, and I like winning by large margins wherever possible. So the sort of what this represents in the pinnacle of striving to win is what attracts me, really, rather than the actual car design.
And as a distant bystander, as you claim you are these days, which way is this race going to go this afternoon?
Well, I think people have been writing Ferrari off, but I mean that's ridiculous. When you look at their run of success and finishes they had, you don't get that with any whim. I mean, that's a lot of hard work, and they have a lot of depth, and I would be surprised if they don't do well here today.
Gordon, great to see you again. And this week, Ted Kravitz, just like you, Gordon, I'm sure has been enjoying everything Ferrari and everything Italian that surrounds this San Marino Grand Prix.
When you come to Imola, you know you're in Ferrari country. The closest Grand Prix to the Scuderia's Maranello headquarters, this race has an intoxicating atmosphere. We're nowhere near the little principality of San Marino, after which the event is named, but it doesn't matter and no one cares. Imola, with all its history, is part of Formula One. It's little wonder the men who drive for Ferrari here never want to leave.
I'm in the best team I could imagine to be, honestly. The guys and everybody of the team, the Tifosi, they're all so great to me. I've really, I've been so thankful to all these years. I have all this support and this great time.
I think it's a great feeling. I mean, not many drivers had this opportunity to be Ferrari driver and racing at home.
And home is the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy, just south of Bologna. The surrounding vineyards are famous for their Sangiovese, while the streets surrounding the circuit bear the names of Ferrari legends. For such a famous name, Imola itself is a small place. Twinned with Colchester, it's about half the size of the Essex town, but has the traditionally Italian culture, a sophisticated, relaxed way of life. But every spring, the circuit in Imola's Acqua Minerale Park welcomes Italy's Ferrari fans, the Tifosi, and thousands of their worldwide colleagues, who bring passion and chaos in equal measure.
Here you can feel the smell of racing car, even also bikes. They're fanatic about racing. And even if Monza is a legend, to me the atmosphere in Imola is much more relaxed and, if you want, enthusiastic in a nice way.
This Imola event is like few others. The air is cool and crisp, the sun shines, Ferrari are on pole position. Now all that remains, all that matters, is to race.
And compared with the atmosphere that's building up around the circuit and the red and white that's building up around this Imola circuit, everything is calm, controlled organisation within the Ferrari garage right at the moment. But that's going to change pretty soon, I'm sure. Gerhard Berger was a man of Ferrari, strong Ferrari links, and a man who was closely associated with so many events down the years here at Imola. Well, he's now back in team management with Scuderia Toro Rosso, and Louise Goodman has been spending some time with him this week.
Gerhard Berger is one of the most successful Formula One drivers of the modern era. In a career spanning 13 years, he won 10 Grand Prix and the affection of fans all around the world. Berger finally hung up his helmet in 1997, but those years of racing experience were put to good use as motorsport director for BMW. After 20 years in Formula One, he finally decided to take some time out with his family.
I felt that I need a break. But I also felt that my life is motorsport and one day I'm going to be back in motorsport. I didn't know when, immediately, a bit later. I just thought I have to go home, I have to sort out a few things at home, because at one stage I was sitting in dinner and my wife was translating things what my children told me because they couldn't speak my language. And it just was Portuguese and I didn't speak Portuguese, so my wife was translating the whole time. I said, there's something wrong here.
Just as Gerhard was starting to think about getting back into racing, his old friend, Red Bull boss Dieter Mateschitz, suggested a deal. He would buy into Berger's family haulage business and Gerhard would become part owner of Mateschitz's new Toro Rosso team in exchange. So what does the job involve?
We have as our team principal Franz Tost. He's an Austrian guy I know very long. I trust him very much. I worked with him in BMW, but he is responsible for the daily business. And I try to do the mid-term, long-term planning, and I try to help wherever I can help with my experience, with my contacts, wherever it's need.
What about the drivers? Do you have much input with them?
Yes, I have to say I'm very, very happy with our drivers. Both very competitive guys, a bit unexperienced, but doesn't matter. When I've been in this stage, I didn't want to listen to any old racing driver. I thought I have my own idea. So I'm very careful what I tell them because I don't want to be a pain in the ass and just tell them every day what I think they should do.
Scott clearly has his opinions on older racing drivers, as we discovered in Australia. He's got a reputation for being a bit arrogant. Is that true?
Well, yes, but I like it. You know, I don't look for the nice racing driver. I look for the bastard that go and win the races. You know, I like somebody really. Has his own way, his own head, but get the job done.
Antonio is obviously a great character, but is he a great driver?
Yes, he is, absolutely. I'm 100% convinced of him.
How good?
I think very good. We did a hell of a step already from where Minardi was coming to where we are now. But again, you know, when I go on the starting grid back, I don't like it, you know. I always say even the girls look bad in the back, you know, so I like to go to the front.
But at the glamorous end of the grid is Jenson Button as we get into more serious issues of what's likely to happen today, especially for Jenson, who after his pole position in Australia has qualified on that front row again. Not only that, but for Honda, Rubens Barrichello has found his form. He's qualified in third. Well, I talked to Jenson this morning after what was a very good day for the team yesterday.
We were very happy, you know, it's our best qualifying as a team, second and third. It's the first time I've ever had a teammate in the press conference with me, so it's a good experience. So to be second and third on the grid here in Imola is great, because it's so difficult to overtake around here. We just got to hope that our strategy is correct.
Yeah, we have to assume a lot in terms of tactics. We assume that you've been fairly aggressive, maybe McLaren, Renault less so. What are the sort of characteristics of the race that you're expecting today?
Well, we're expecting Ferrari to be very quick. We don't know when people are going to be stopping. I was surprised at how slow Alonso was, but I heard that he got held up by another car, so probably cost him a little bit of time. So we've just got to wait and see. You know, it's a tough one to call here, because there's so many different ideas of strategy going on.
Australia was so frustrating, and we understand the tyre problems that the team is trying to work through. What sort of evidence have you seen that you're getting some answers?
Well, a lot of the issues in Australia were down to the low temperatures, and we just couldn't work at those low temperatures. We couldn't find the grip like other teams. So we've been doing a lot of work over the last 2 weeks and trying to find out our issues and why we had those issues. And I think we've done a pretty good job. You know, we don't know 100% if we've cured all of the problems until we go to a cold circuit, which will probably be Nürburgring in 2 weeks. But here, you know, the temperature's high, it's 22, 23 degrees air temperature, so it shouldn't be any issue here at all, which I'm very pleased about.
Will you have to change anything that you do as a driver to try to get extra heat in the tyre?
Yeah, we've been practicing lots of different things on the warm-up laps of the grid and the pace car laps, which makes a difference, but it's not everything. That's just trying to help the problem, but the problem is something else that we've worked on and we think we've improved.
Well, let's hope for no safety cars, but how nervous will you be after that first pit stop?
It's going to be exciting. You know, I won't be nervous. It's going to be exciting, and it's nice, as I said, to have Rubens up there.
Yes, you feel with Rubens there, that's a supportive thing. It's not an extra element of the challenge.
It's obviously a challenge, but it's nice. It's the first time this year that I've had my teammate up there, so having Rubens up there at the front, it's good for the team, and it takes the pressure off me a little bit, I suppose. Yeah, you know, Rubens is a guy that I've always enjoyed racing with. Had a great little tussle in Bahrain, so we're looking forward to a good race, hopefully a good race, and to score lots of points for the team.
So the plan, you hit the front early on. It's a great circuit to try to defend from that position, isn't it?
It is. It's very difficult to overtake. You know, if the car is 2 seconds quicker than you, you know, it's pretty possible for them to overtake on any circuit. But if they're 2 or 3 tenths quicker, you know, they've got no chance. So that is a good thing, and we've just got to hope that we've chosen the right strategy. As I've said, I think we have, and it should work for us. And we've just got to wait and see. But I'm excited, as the whole team are, especially having the 2 cars up there.
The man alongside you is going to feel some pressure today as well, isn't he?
Hopefully he is. Hopefully he's not just going to disappear into the distance. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, there we go. Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello have just left the garage, and I'm down here with Jenson's boss, Nick Fry. Nick, how sure are you, how convinced are you personally that Jenson has the ability himself to translate those laps he does in qualifying over 62 laps in the race?
I really don't think that's anything to do with Jenson. We've got 100% belief in both his ability and Rubens. It's our business to make sure the car can do as well in qualifying or in the race as it does in qualifying, and that's more of a mechanical setup issue, use of the tyres, than Jenson's ability.
So your view of Honda Racing's chances of success today?
I think we've learned a huge amount. We've been working 24 hours a day since Australia, and we've clearly learned a lot. Will it be enough this afternoon? I guess we'll see in 2 hours.
And how do you feel about that first corner? Do you think there's a chance you might be able to hold off, get ahead of Michael?
Clearly it's going to be interesting. Felipe Massa obviously behind in a fast car, and maybe a wee bit less regular than some of the other drivers.
They're all going to the grid.
But what we've got to do is make sure we come out of the first corner first, so that would be perfect.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
And it was interesting to hear from Jenson just that bit earlier, Mark, that he doesn't feel in today's conditions the tyre problems that were so damaging in Australia are really going to be a factor today.
We're going to have to wait and see, Steve, because I still feel that there may be some issues. As the safety car comes out, they've got to try and do what Alonso and Michael Schumacher have done in the past and be very aggressive and warming up those tyres, transfer the heat deep and keep the heat in there for grip.
And that does mean a whole new, different technique for the driver, who needs a lot of confidence to do that sort of thing.
They do indeed. They've been testing this while we've been away from the Australia race and back to Europe. And they've been trying to make sure that the drivers and the team make a car that can cope with that and put that heat in there. And that's the big issue they've had, and they're going to have to see if they fixed it today.
We shall see. We'll be out on the grid very shortly indeed. The cars are heading out there now, but right now it's ITV Formula One competition time.
all of which you can find along with a lot of other Formula One background on the ITV Formula One website and at paddock at itv/f1.com. You can email any Formula One questions to Mark Blundell and he'll provide the answers in our pre-race feature question mark in our Sunday race build-up. But if you know the answers yourself already, you can win some great Formula One related prizes in our race weekend competitions. Ahead of the Australian Grand Prix, Robin Soster of Scarborough correctly identified the Côte d'Azur as the location for the Monaco Grand Prix. And as a result, he'll be there in a month's time, all expenses paid. Here's Louise with this week's competition.
This weekend we have got a unique prize to give away. It's a chance to get behind the scenes with the MF1 team at the British Grand Prix. Here's Johnny to tell you more.
Well, we've got some amazing prizes. We've got some grandstand seats. We've got a visit to the MF1 paddock and to the garages and see everything inside there. We've got some team kit for each of you. We've also got a race seat to be made, fitted to you. And also we've got the Grand Prix ball, which you can visit with me.
So that's a trip for the winner plus a friend to Silverstone. We'll get you there and put you up from Thursday the 8th of June until race day. So if you fancy spending the weekend with Johnny Herbert, all you have to do is tell us, when did he win the British Grand Prix? Was it A, 1985, B, 1995 or C, 2005? The number to call is 0901 293 2020, or you can text F1 plus your answer, A, B or C, to 63337. Calls and texts cost £1 per entry plus the standard network rate. Lines close at midnight on Wednesday the 3rd of May and we'll announce the winner at the next race. So good luck.
And I'll see you there.
This week's question comes from Chris Allen in Surrey. He asks, how does Scuderia Toro Rosso restrict the power of the V10 engine to the current regulations? I found the perfect person to answer this, Antonio Luzzi.
Hello, here is our car and this is the main difference. We've got a big restriction on the whole here for the airbox and our limitation is to 77 millimeter. And this one is like we struggle to breathe, our engine struggle to breathe. But regarding the engine side, last year we were reaching like 18.3 in RPM, top revs, and this year we have around 16.8, and that's the maximum we get. And these two make a big difference in the circuit.
In terms of power difference between the V8 and V10, you just tested a Red Bull V8 car. What's the biggest difference?
Definitely the V8 has got much more power in the top revs and the torque going up to the revs from the medium speed and the medium rev reaching the top as good because it reached around 18.5 and I think some engines even 19,000 revs. So then for sure on the straight line is much stronger. But this V10 sometimes has got a little bit better exit of the corner, is more responsive in the first moment you touch the throttle. But I don't think it's got a big difference in the circuit because as you can see we struggle as well.
Okay Chris, one of the hot topics for 2006, answered just for you.
And maybe question marks also surrounding Toyota at the moment as they parted company with their technical director Mike Gascoigne seemingly rather abruptly in the last couple of weeks. Doesn't seem to have affected team performance with Ralf Schumacher putting the car on the third row. But John Howett, Toyota president, what can you tell us about Mike Gascoigne's departure, the circumstances?
Well, I think we had a difference between the team, if you like, or the team management and Mike in the future direction, and we decided it was best for both parties to separate amicably.
Is there a danger of an effect on the team, a destabilising effect?
Well, I think if you look at modern organisations, you have a lot of people and we have a lot of competent people, so we're fairly confident that we can hold the team together. It's still Mike's car, but we don't expect a major impact.
These things happen. He made a great contribution, hadn't he?
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, we don't deny that. He's got the team where it is now, but there is another future in another direction, and that's the one the management's chosen to take.
John, thanks very much indeed. All the best for today. And the sun shines. The grid here at Imola has formed, and we'll be heading out onto that grid in the final stages of our build-up for this San Marino Grand Prix, when you rejoin us in just a few minutes' time.
What's my starting position?
You're 25th in the queue. Please hold. You're 24th in the queue. Please hold.
Cover.com. Car insurance without call centres.
We've been to Bahrain and Malaysia and Melbourne, but there's a special feeling when you see the grid form for the first European Grand Prix of the season, and especially when it's a sun-drenched, glamorous afternoon at Imola, with Ferrari on pole position. The San Marino Grand Prix is due off at 1 o'clock, your time in the UK. And our team is assembling on the grid as well. Juan Pablo Montoya, Mark Blundell, part of an all-McLaren fourth row with Kimi Raikkonen, and expect them to be entering this race with some fairly aggressive strategy.
They definitely need to be aggressive, because I think they maybe just a little bit caught on the hop there in qualifying, a little bit too heavy, and those guys at the front, definitely the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, is going to be a little bit light on the fuel load, and it's going to make an impression.
It's warm, that's for sure. Louise Goodman is out there on the grid, and she now is with Juan Pablo Montoya.
Juan Pablo, there's been a lot of talk about Ferrari and Honda, but how much do you think McLaren are going to feature in this race today?
Well, we'll see. You know, Honda has the tendency to run a little bit short, and the race pace, sometimes it drops away, you know. I think Ferrari, Michael can be quite strong, and we'll see what Renault can do as well. It's going to be an interesting race today.
In what way?
There's a lot of players all doing different stuff, so it's going to be quite a tricky race.
How difficult is it to overtake here? Is it going to mean a lot of stuff's going to be going on in the pit lane?
I think strategy is going to play a big part.
Thank you.
Okay.
What's your thoughts, Mark, about overtaking opportunities and the lack of them around this Imola circuit?
It's always been a tough circuit to overtake on, and you know, you've got the situation now with these cars. Yes, we've seen a lot of overtaking this season, but this circuit in particular really means you need to qualify strongly, and those guys are on the first couple of rows, are in the clean air, they're in none of the activity going on up the front there. It should be in the mid-pack, and that's where it gets troubled, especially going to that first chicane.
Well, this was the Australian, or the kind of sunshine we were expecting in Australia for the last round in Melbourne, as Juan Pablo Montoya heads away to cool off there. Mark Webber, familiar with these kind of conditions, and I think we can hear from the Australian right now.
Well, Mark, we haven't heard much from Williams this weekend. How are you? How's the car going, and what do you think is going to happen in the race for you?
Yeah, I'm okay. It has been a bit tougher than the first three events, actually. Started with Alex on Friday, trying to make the decision on the tyres. Wasn't easy. Alex's runs were good, but we're just trying to make the decision between the soft and the hard tyre. So, of course, we've made the decision now, and we'll see how we go in the race. But it's been a bit tougher, but of course, we're going to try and get both cars to the end and get some points.
This is no good. You haven't got some dolly bird to hold your umbrella for you.
Tell you what, there's some reasonable dolly birds hanging around today, as we say. It's all right. No, I don't need someone holding my train set.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Niki Lauda heading out to a grid that he is so familiar with, both within the car and as part of the Ferrari effort down the years as well. Well, quite clearly the cars and the stars have made it to the grid, including pole position man Michael Schumacher there, and so too has Martin Brundle.
Thank you, Steve. Well, you've heard through the programme so far that this is going to be an intriguing race, one of strategies, and also it could all be about down to the first corner. It's a very narrow, old-style racetrack here, and quite a curve down there, but they're building up a tremendous speed. They're going to arrive there with cold front tyres, coolish brakes, and often we've seen a lot of dramas down there. Now, Michael Schumacher cruised around to the pits trying to save fuel. I think he's got a lot less. Don't run away, Bernie. I think he's got a lot less fuel on board. I'm going to get into that more in a minute. Bernie, it looks like being a great race today. Who's your money on?
I don't know, difficult, isn't it? I think Shuey's on 3 stops, so it might be more difficult for him. Maybe Jensen's got a good chance, depending on their strategy, obviously.
Okay, I think what we need now, we need all these drivers, as we've got up the front together, don't we? I think the Hondas and the Toyotas could actually hold the pack up and let Michael get away.
Yeah, maybe yes. Just depends on, as I say, on what their strategy is.
Now, you're the show master, you're the circuit master. You probably prefer a blue car not to win today, wouldn't you? Like a bit of variety?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? We complained about Shuey winning everything. Now I told them. Now we've got Fernando winning everything. Maybe we won't see that today.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to put my money on anybody else, though, to be honest with you.
I know you don't like wasting money, but I see. Well, let's have a word, actually, with Tamara Ecclestone, having just spoken to Dad. Tamara, just spoken to your dad. Welcome to the grid. So how's it going with you? How's the career going and all that sort of thing?
It's going really well. I've got a programme coming out in a couple of weeks, and I'm just here picking up tips from the pros.
Now tell me something, your dad doesn't always come to the Grand Prix, and for sure he watches F1 ITV like everybody else. Does he throw his things at the TV if it's not going well, or is he really calm? Have you been with him watching a race?
Yeah, you know what? My dad doesn't do public displays of emotion, so it's all calm and collected.
Oh, really? So he never gets upset with it? Well, that's reassuring to know, isn't it? So you're doing a bit of TV. Tell me something. Do you know Michael Schumacher really well? Would he recognise you if you went cruising up to him?
I don't know if he'd recognise me anymore. When I was a kid he would, but I've changed a lot, so I'm not sure.
He won't talk to us because he hates the British press, and me and him fell out about 3 or 4 years ago, and neither of us can remember why. But do you fancy trying to get an interview with him?
I'd love to try.
Let's have a go, because it might annoy him, but then I've annoyed him before when he was my teammate. So are you coming with us, Andy? And let's go over here. Oh, he's got his crash helmet on already, so we're not going to get a chance to talk to Michael with the hands device going on. Look. So are you a Ferrari fan, a Schumacher fan, or are you a bit more neutral?
I'm totally neutral. I'm here for the glamour, I guess.
Okay, well, it's really good to talk to you. Your mum often won't talk to me on the grid because I think she doesn't like me or something, but I think she's a sweetheart underneath, isn't she?
She is, trust me, she really is. I'll have a word with her.
No, she's fine. Okay, we're going to move on to Rubens. Lovely to see you. Pity we couldn't get Michael. I was hoping to doorstep him there and catch him out, but we're not going to make that work. Let's see if we can find Barrichello. We're getting a little bit late to turn right, I'm being told, and where are we? There we go. Oh, he's talking to Jock Clear, his engineer, sticking his air plugs in here. He's looking really... Just talking about the final start procedure, and that maybe they've already done a practice start, so they've got a target range of revs for Rubens to get off the line. Now, Rubens, welcome back to where you belong on the grid.
It took longer than I thought. I mean, they changed the brakes and it changed my life. The brakes has the bite now, you know what I mean, and it's just a good feeling to come back slowly. There's a lot more to come in terms of traction control, but we are on the good route.
Now, you've got some cars behind you that were slower in qualifying, probably running more fuel. Do you think you might have a major effect on this race by actually getting in the way of the Renaults, or am I being unfair there?
Well, we know that they are quick, and hopefully our strategy will be a big factor for us to be just quick.
Okay, good luck with the race. So the story then for me is, if Michael can get away, I still think the Hondas and Ralf Schumacher there in P6 will have a big influence on the two other fastest cars other than the Ferrari, which are the Renault and the McLaren. Can they get through to chase Michael Schumacher? Will he have degradation on his Bridgestone tyres? And how is it all going to play out through the pit stops? Back to you, Steve.
Thanks, Martin. We saw a quick shot there, Mark, of Giancarlo Fisichella. He was the surprise disappointment of qualifying yesterday, missing out on the final session, but he has put that Renault in 11th spot, which gives him a whole range of fresh options. What kind of a threat could Fisichella be today?
He could be a threat because you've got that option there to take whatever fuel load he wishes, and the strategy they run can be changed as you go throughout the race because they haven't got that fixed amount of fuel to enter. But you know what Martin was reflecting on there, Schumacher's going to be maybe tough to beat in some respects, but the toughest thing will be, even if anybody can get on the back of that Ferrari, it's been quickest through every single speed trap on the circuit, and that's going to be tough for them to overtake. The only way they may be able to do it is maybe not on the circuit but in the pits.
Yeah, no, truly there, and it really is quite a surprise that the drivers and everyone around Imola here this afternoon are having to make such efforts to keep cool in this surprising spring sunshine. Rubens Barrichello making his final adjustments. We've had adjustments to the circuit as well. What do you think we've lost in terms of the changes that have been made to the Variante Alta in particular?
Well, I think from a driver's point of view, it was one of those corners which was very much a challenge. When you entered that chicane at the top there, you kind of held your breath and you just turned the car in and you wished that you got out the other side in the exit. If you clipped the curb and got it wrong, it was a big incident. You'd end up in the wall, and that's something that I think has now been sanitized. We've lost that. I certainly would want the challenge back of that chicane if I was driving the circuit.
Michael Schumacher, of course, knows every inch of this circuit in its old configuration and its new tweaks as well, and he'll be desperate to have that opportunity to get away if he can.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to get off the line very cleanly, but also Jenson Button's going to be looking to get off the line in front of him, and that's a possibility today.
There's Fernando Alonso, who's qualified in 5th position and will be a distinct threat through the opening laps. And what a San Marino Grand Prix we're in for. And it's almost start time. So exactly what does this 4th race of the season have in store? We'll be very close indeed to finding out in just a few minutes' time when you rejoin us here at Imola.
I've been shunted.
This is the pits. Your call is important to us. This is the pits. Your call is
Swiftcover.com. Car insurance without call centres.